You try the network, the loss went down, beautifully down. You hit 99% on the training set. You celebrated. Then you tested it on real data. 60%. What happened? Your network didn't learn. It memorized. And memorizing is not learning. Today we fix this. By the end of next few minutes, you will have 5 tools that turn brittle memorizing networks into ones that actually work in the wild. Here is the quick recap. Episode 1 and 2 gave us everything we needed to build and train a neural network. We had the architecture, we had backpropagation, we had gradient descent, we had a network that could learn, and it worked. The training loss dropped to nearly zero. But here is the problem nobody warned you about. The validation loss told a different story. It dropped at first and then it climbed back up. The network was getting better at the training set and was at everything else. This is the hard truth. A model that aces the training set is not the model that works. It is a model that cheated. Today's job is to stop that cheating. 5 tools, each one solves the problem from a different angle. Here is what we'll cover. First, bias versus variance. The fundamental trade-off behind every machine learning problem. You will never look at a model the same way again. Second, L1 and L2 regularization. Penalize big weights. Force the network to be simpler. Third, dropout. The wild 2012 idea that randomly disables neurons during training. And somehow this makes the network better. Fourth, early stopping and data augmentation. The cheap, easy techniques that almost no one talks about but everyone uses. And finally, the code. We'll add 3 lines to a PyTorch model and watch it actually generalize. By the end of this video, you'll have a real ML engineer toolkit for fighting overfitting. Before we attack overfitting, we need to know it's just a problem. Every machine learning model is a fight between two enemies. Enemy number 1, high bias, also called underfitting. The model is too simple, it can't capture the pattern in the data. Symptoms, both training and validation loss are high. The model is too rigid, it is drawing a straight line through the curves. What is the fix? Make the model bigger, more layers, more neurons, more capacity. Enemy number 2, high variance, overfitting. The model is too complex, it memorizes the training set instead of learning the pattern. Symptoms, training loss is low, validation loss is high. The model is too flexible, it is trying a wiggle through every single point, including the noise. What is the fix? That is today's whole episode. Regularize. The goal is speed spot. Is a model just complex enough to capture the pattern, but not so complex that it memorizes noise? That is what every ML engineer is hunting for every time on every project. This is the chart. If you take only one image away from this video, take this one. You will look at this chart every time you train a model for the rest of your career. Let me walk you through it. The green line is your training loss. It goes down smooth, always going down because the network keeps fitting the training set tighter and tighter. The red line is your validation loss, performance on data the network has never seen. It goes down at first, then it bottoms out, then it climbs back up. The growing gap between green and red is the visual definition of overfitting. The network is getting better at memorizing and worse at generalizing at the same time. And the lowest point of the red curve is your best model. That is where you should have stopped training. We'll back to this idea. It is called early stopping and it is free. Same data, 3 different models. Look at what each one does to it. On the left, underfit a straight line through every data. The model is too simple to even see the pattern. It is missing the cause entirely. In the middle, just right, the line follows trend without chasing every noisy bump. This is the model that will work on new data. On the right, warp it, the line begins through every single point, even the noise. It got 100% on the training set, but it's learned the noise as if it were the signal. On the new data, it will be a disaster. Today's job is to stop the network from becoming the third one. Now, you might be thinking, why is overfitting such a big deal for neural networks, especially? Why don't simple models like linear regression have this problem the same way? Three numbers tell the story. 175 billion. This is the parameter count of GPT-3. More weights than English words ever spoken in human history. 10 to negative 6. That's a typical sample to weight ratio in deep learning. Each training point has to teach a million weights how to behave. And here is the wild one, 100% is, if you take a big enough neural network and give it completely random labels that don't follow any pattern at all, it will still fit them perfectly. It will achieve 100% accuracy on pure noise. That tells you something important. Neural networks are not naturally good at finding patterns. They are naturally good at compressing data into their weights. Regularization is what forces them to find the actual pattern instead. First weapon, the simplest one, L2 regularization, also called weight decay. Here is the formula. Final loss equals original data loss plus lambda times the sum of scared weights. We are adding a penalty to the loss function based on how big the weights are. Lambda is the strength knob, typical values between 0.001 and 0.1. Bigger lambda means a harder push towards smaller weights, which means a simpler model. Sum of W squared is just every weight in the network squared then added together. Squaring is important. It punishes big weights way more than small ones. A weight of 5 contributes to 25 to the penalty. A weight of 0.5 contributes only 0.25. What is the effect? The optimizer gets two competing forces. One pulls the weights towards whatever value fit in the training data. The other pulls them towards 0. Result is weights stay small unless they are really useful. This technique is so universal, it is literally the default in every modern deep learning framework. Every PyTorch optimizer has a weight decay parameter. Every network you have ever heard of, GPT, BET, ResNet, uses some form of L2. L1 looks almost identical to L2, but the difference is profound. Same idea, analyze the size of weights, but instead of squaring them, we just take the absolute value. Why does this matter? It is all about the gradient. When you take the derivative of L2 penalty, you get 2W. That is a force proportional to the weight. Big weight, big push towards 0. Small weight, tiny push. Result is weights get smaller and smaller but never quite reach 0. When you take the derivative of L1, you get a sign of W, just plus or minus 1, regardless of how big or small the weight is. It is a constant push. And that is the magic. Small weights get the same push as big weights. Eventually, the constant push shows them all the way to 0. They become exactly 0. Result, a sparse model, many weights become exactly 0, meaning the network has automatically decided some inputs are not useful and just turn them off. The network does its own feature selection. So, which one should you use? The honest answer, almost always L2. L2 is the universal default. It is used in every modern deep learning model, ResNet, BET, every transformer. It is the silent default in every PyTorch optimizer. If you don't know which one to pick L2. Use L1 when you specially want sparsity. Two cases, you want a smaller, faster model. L1 will zero out useless weights so you can prune them, or you want interpretability, you want to know which input features the model actually cares about, and yes, you can use both at the same time. It is called elastic net, but honestly, most people just use L2 and move on with their lives. Now for the technique that sound completely insane when you first hear it, and it become one of the most important breakthroughs in deep learning history. In 2012, interns lab proposed something bizarre. On every training batch, randomly delete half the neurons in your network. Yes, really, each batch you flip a coin for every neuron. Heads, the neuron contributes. Tails, you set its output to 0. The probability, usually called P, is typically zero point 0.2 to zero point 0.5. Sometimes you really do delete half the neurons and the network gets better. Why does this work? Three reasons. One, forces redundancy. No single neuron can become indispensable because it might be deleted on the next batch. So every important feature ends up being detected by multiple neurons. Second, approximate ensembling. Each batch is essentially training a different subnetwork. By the end, you have trained an exponential number of models, all sharing the same weights. At testing, they work together. 3. Break co-adaptation. Without dropout, neurons can form precise cliques, groups that work together perfectly but fall apart if any one piece is missing. Dropout prevents these cliques from forming. Here is what dropout looks like in practice. There are two modes. On the left, training mode. All the hidden neurons have red X through them. They are disabled for this batch. The network is paused to make do with the what is left. On the right, test mode. All neurons turn back on. The full network is active. There is one little subtle during training. When you delete off the neurons, the surviving neurons need to be scaled up by a factor of 1 over 1 minus p, so the expected output stays the same. PyTorch handle this automatically. You don't have to think about it. Now my favorite technique, because it is the simplest and most underrated and completely free. Early stopping. It is exactly what it sounds like. Stop training before the model starts overfitting. Remember the chart from earlier? The validation loss goes down, hits a minimum, and then climbs back up. The minimum is your best model. So here is the algorithm. After each epoch, measure the validation loss. If it is the lowest I have seen, save a copy of the model. If the validation loss has not improved in n epochs, that is called patience. Stop training. Use the saved best model. That's it. No new math, no extra layers, no tuning. Just save your best model and quit while you are ahead. Use it on every project. That is literally no downside. One last technique, and honestly, the most powerful one of all when it works. More data is the best regulator in the universe. If you double your training set, your model will be generalized better almost always. But getting more data is expensive. So when you can't get it more, you pick it. Data augmentation is the art of generating new training samples from existing ones. One image becomes 8. Take the original, rotate it slightly, flip it horizontally, crop a corner, brighten it, add a little noise, shift the colors, mix it with another image. All 8 versions are still valid examples of the same class, but to the network, they look like 8 different training samples, and the network can't memorize 8 versions as easily as one. Same idea works for any domain. For text, synonym replacement, random word selection, back translation. For audio, time stitching, pitch shifting, adding background noise. There is an augmentation playbook for every domain, always cheaper than collecting more data often just as effective. Time for the code, both L2 regularization and dropout from scratch in about 30 lines of NumPy. L2 the loss is 2 extra lines, compute the data loss as usual, then add lambda times the sum of scared weights, that is the new loss. When back propagation hits this, the gradient picks up a 2 lambda W term for each weight, that is the weight decay post pulling weights towards 0. 2 lines, done. Dropout is 3 lines. If we are training, generate a random binary mask the same shape as the activations, multiply the activations by the mask that zeroes out the drop neurons, then divide by 1 minus p to scale up the survivors. If you are not training at inference time, just return the activations unchanged. The whole technique, 3 lines. And here is the beautiful part. Both techniques can be added to any model architectures without changing anything else. No re-engineering, no special design. That's why they are universal, because they just plug in. And in PyTorch, 3 keyword arguments. Dropout, add nn dot dropout as a layer in your model. Done. L2 pass weight underscore decay equals 1 e minus 4. When you create your optimizer, done. Mode switching, call model.train before training and model.eval before inference. PyTorch handles the dropout, train or test logic automatically. This is the important rule. Always remember to call eval before inference. If you don't, dropout will still be active and your predictions will randomly worse every time you call them. It is a classic bug, hits everyone once. 30 lines of NumPy become 3 keyword changes, same algorithm, same effect, different boilerplate. Now the playbook, different problems need different tools. Here is how working ML engineers actually decide. Validation loss climbing, early stopping, free, instant, always do this first. Default new project L2 weight decay, set it to 1a minus 4. It is the universal baseline, cost you nothing. Deep network, 10 layers or more, add dropout, be between 0.2 and 0.5. This is the standard for CNNs, MLPs, transformers, basically every modern architecture. Limited training data, data augmentation, cheaper than collecting more, often just as effective. Want a smaller model? L1 zeros out useless weights so you can frame them. Modern transformer or LLM, all three dropout, L2 augmentation. This is the industry standard. And the golden rule is start simple, add one technique at a time, measure. Bigger is not better, more regularization is not same as better regularization. Take a moment. 3 episodes ago, a neural network was a black box that did magic. Now you know what is inside, all of it. Episode 1, foundations, perceptron, multi-layer networks, activation functions, the forward pass. Episode 2, landing, loss function, gradient descent, the chain rule, back propagation. Episode 3, channelizing, bias and variance, L1 and L2, dropout, early stopping, data augmentation. From perceptron to production, you now understand the entire pipeline that powers every modern AI systems on Earth. If this series helped you, hit like, it tells YouTube to show this to other people who need it. Subscribe for more deep dives. There is a lot we can build together, and drop a comment telling me what you want to cover next. I read every comment, and what gets the most votes is the what gets made. Thanks for going through series with me. I will see you in the next one.